I want to say something that is going to make some of you uncomfortable. I sold my house at 68. After 41 years of home ownership. After 4 decades of believing, genuinely believing, that owning was the responsible choice, the smart choice, the choice that serious people make. And I am here to tell you that renting in retirement might be the most financially sound decision a lot of us never seriously consider. I know how that lands. I know the look people get. I've seen it at dinner tables. The slight pause. The polite but unmistakable expression that says, "Oh, but don't you want to own something?" I owned something for 41 years. I know exactly what it costs. And that is precisely why I want to have this conversation honestly today. Because after 38 years as a financial advisor and several years of living this decision firsthand, I think a lot of people are holding on to homeownership in retirement for reasons that have more to do with identity than with actual financial sense. Yes, renting has real downsides. You are not building equity. Your rent can go up. You do not control everything the way you would if you owned. All of that is true, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But here is what I want you to consider. The freedom from the high, unpredictable, and sometimes relentless costs of home ownership can give you better financial security and a genuinely better quality of life in retirement. Not for everyone, but for far more people than are currently willing to admit it. Let me start with what people think homeownership in retirement looks like. Most people picture it like a quiet, settled story. Mortgage paid off, everything stable, no more payments. Just sitting peacefully in a house that is fully yours. But that is not how it plays out. Not really. Not in my experience, and not in the experience of hundreds of clients I sat across from over nearly 4 decades. Even with the mortgage gone, the house is still a living, breathing expense machine. Property taxes. And these have been making headlines across the country, going up in ways that are genuinely pushing retirees out of homes they have lived in for 30 years. Homeowners insurance, that in many parts of this country has increased dramatically, and in some areas has become almost impossible to get at a reasonable rate. And repairs that do not ask permission and do not care what else you had planned for that money. The water heater does not care that you are retired. The roof does not care. The HVAC system will wait until the hottest week of July to give out on you. I had a client, I will call him Paul, retired at 66 with his house paid off and genuinely proud of it. Called me 14 months into retirement because he had taken a roof replacement, a water heater failure, and a plumbing issue, all in the same year. $64,000. 1 year. He had the savings to cover it, but just barely. And the retirement he had planned quietly got revised in the months that followed. And it is not just the money. It is the mental load. That constant background hum of what is next? What is going to break? What surprise bill is going to arrive right when things finally felt stable? When I rent, my costs are predictable. Not perfect, not immune to increases, but predictable in a way that makes monthly life feel genuinely calmer. I know what my rent is. I know what my utilities are. And if something major breaks, I am not lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking about whether to pull money from investments to cover it. I am calling maintenance. That is it. Predictability matters enormously in retirement, especially when you are on a fixed income, drawing from savings, and trying to make your money last without that low-grade financial anxiety running in the background of everything. I also want to talk about flexibility, because I think it is one of the most undervalued arguments for renting in retirement. Retirement is not always the perfectly stable, nothing changes for 30 years season that we plan for when we are 52. You might want to move closer to your children. You might find that the winters are harder than they used to be. You might realize 3 years in that the city you retired in is not actually the city you want to grow old in. You might want to be closer to better medical care. You might simply want a different life than the one you locked into. Renting lets you do all of that. Owning means that every one of those changes comes with a project attached. Preparing the house for sale, showings, inspections, waiting on the market, timing everything correctly. That process asks something of you physically and emotionally that is simply more demanding at 70 than it was at 45. I have watched people stay in the wrong place for the wrong reasons, not because they wanted to stay, but because the sheer effort of leaving was more than they had the energy to take on. The house became a trap, dressed up as an asset. Renting keeps the door open. And in this season of life, keeping doors open matters more than most retirement planning conversations ever acknowledge. Now I want to talk about something that I think gets almost completely ignored when people debate renting versus owning in retirement. Liquidity. When you own a home, a significant portion of your net worth is sitting inside the walls. It might be growing slowly, but it is not paying your medical bills today. It is not giving you options when you need them quickly. It is not covering the gap in a difficult month. If you needed $60,000 in the next 90 days, where does it come from when most of your wealth is equity? You sell, which takes time and carries real costs. You borrow against the equity, which has its own complications, or you simply do not have access to it when you need it most. When you rent, you can keep significantly more of your money in investments, in savings, in a cash cushion that gives you genuine options. And options are what financial security actually feels like when you are living inside it. I spent 38 years watching people confuse net worth with financial security. They are not the same thing. A high net worth tied up in a house you cannot easily access is not the same as having money that works for you every single month. In retirement, I care far more about monthly cash flow than about what I own on paper. And renting gave me that cash flow in a way that homeownership simply could not. People say renting is throwing money away. I want to reframe that completely. Rent is not throwing money away. Rent is paying for a service. You are paying for shelter, yes, but you are also paying for maintenance you never have to manage, for flexibility you could not otherwise afford, for mental space that is worth more than most people realize until they finally have it. When you own, you are the project manager of your property. There is always something. A yard, a driveway, a fence that needs attention, a strange sound that needs diagnosing, a contractor you need to get 3 quotes from and still feel uncertain about. When you rent, your home becomes what it should be in retirement. A place to live, a place to rest, a place to actually enjoy the life you spent 40 years building toward. And as we get older, needs change in ways we cannot always predict. You might need a single-level layout. You might want to be in a community rather than isolated in a house. You might need to be closer to medical care or family support. Renting makes those transitions far smoother. You are not trying to sell a house and fix it up for showings and time the market while you are already navigating something difficult. You simply move to where you need to be. I want to be honest about the other side because I think you deserve that. Rent can increase. In some markets, it has increased significantly. You are not building equity. You do not have full control over your space. You might have a landlord who is slow. You might have neighbors through a shared wall. These are all real. But here is the question I want you to sit with before you dismiss renting as something that is not for serious people. What are you actually optimizing for in retirement? Are you trying to maximize your net worth on paper? Are you trying to hold on to something that feels like proof of a life well built? Or are you trying to make your money last, keep your stress manageable, stay flexible enough to respond to whatever life brings, and actually enjoy the time you have left in a way that feels free rather than perpetually responsible for a building? Those are different goals. And the choice that serves one of them does not automatically serve the other. I owned a home for 41 years. I built equity. I maintained properties. I believed in all of it. And I sold my last house at 68, and I have not looked back once. Not because homeownership was wrong for the life I was living then. It was right for that life, completely right. But this is a different life, and it deserves a different set of decisions made with clear eyes rather than out of habit or identity or the quiet fear of what people might think. If you are sitting somewhere right now, assuming that renting in retirement is what you do when things did not go according to plan, I want to gently suggest that you look at the full picture again. Not the equity number, not the property value estimate. The number that tells you what your home is actually costing you every single month. In dollars, in stress, in flexibility, in the options it is quietly taking off the table. Then ask yourself honestly, which life do you actually want?